Welcome to Home Means, where the heart of Nevada comes alive. I'm your host, Heather Brown, and this is a place where we uncover the real stories behind the people who make our state extraordinary. From unforgettable adventures to everyday moments that shape us, this podcast is all about the voices, the faces, and the experiences that make Nevada truly unique. Let's dive in and get to the heart of what home means. Welcome to another episode of Home Means. Today I'm really excited to have the president of the Desert Research Institute, Kumud Acharya. Thanks so much for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting.
Of course. So the Desert Research Institute, I genuinely believe it's one of Nevada's treasures. Can you tell our listeners, for people who maybe are hearing about DRI for the first time, what is it and why does it matter?
Okay. So DRI is a nationally and internationally recognized research institute within the Nevada system of higher education here in Nevada. We've been around for over 65 years, involved in applied and basic science to make life better for Nevadans.
I think Nevadans, so they think of the Nevada system of higher education. They think of the usual R1 institutions, the community colleges, but we're so lucky to have a institution that's all dedicated to research. Even when people find out, I think they're surprised to hear that it's not just research about Nevada. You mentioned this, but your scientists conduct research around the globe. I've personally been able to look at some of the results of that research, and it is just phenomenal what they've been able to participate in. What do you think of all the work that's happening at DRI today? What's something that might surprise people?
That's a great question. There are so many different research projects that are happening at DRI. Let's talk about, we live in a very interesting times because of the drought, because of, Western United States has a pretty massive drought going on right now. Colorado River, you hear about it in the news all the time. So DRI is involved in water-related research, whether it's managing drought or coming up with solutions to deal with drought or other water resources issue for decades and decades. And DRI is globally known for two particular disciplines, research disciplines that around the world. One is our work on water, the other one on air. So that's why we have DRI was founded by an atmospheric scientist and a hydrologist. So DRI has, I believe, the largest number of hydrologists under one roof in the United States outside of USGS. So we have more than 50 hydrologists working just to deal with water-related issues. So that's an example of, people might not be familiar with what DRI does. That's one example, right? And I'll give you another example. Let's go to air, right? Atmospheric science, atmospheric, problems are pretty big. So you go to national parks around the country. DRI is one of the 4 institutions in the country that's been monitoring the air quality in all national parks in the country.
Wow.
It's called, what they call it, a haze index. So we have samples coming from those national parks to be analyzed at DRI labs, and then we monitor. What's the air quality? Let's say you go to Zion, you go to Yosemite or all those, So we actually monitor for the whole country, and that's been going on for over 40 years.
And how many times has a family gone out, they want to see it, they look into that.
Mm-hmm.
You're part of so many vacation stories and so many day-to-day stories. That's super cool.
Yep.
I think one of your scientists had mentioned that they could detect some, was it Chernobyl, or it was something. They could actually detect the problems before it was reported.
So I know what you're talking about. So in 2015, when there was a disaster in Fukushima in Japan, the nuclear disaster, the big tsunami, and when those radiation leaked, we were able to detect at our facility in Las Vegas.
Wow.
So we have monitoring stations. There's a program called Community Environmental Monitoring Program, CEMP. It's funded by Department of Energy. So we have stations around NNSS, Nevada National Security Site. So we monitor any radiation that's coming out, and the local community people are involved in monitoring so that people trust that data. So one of our stations was able to detect something happen in Japan. So actually, I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes, yeah, that was definitely it. And it's so many miles away, but it's just another reminder that we do live on a very small rock.
We do.
And science has been able to, even make us closer,
Yep.
but safer because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example of interconnectivity. I remember when I was a scientist back in the day, I used to work on, Devil's Hole in Death Valley.
Yeah.
So Devil's Hole is that's a hole where it's a well, basically exposed well. Where there's a indigenous fish that lives there called puffish. I used to do research there. That Devil's Hole, I remember there was a big earthquake I believe in Chile, many years ago. When during that earthquake, we were able to see the water splashing in Devil's Hole as a result of that earthquake. Talk about interconnectivity,
Wow.
Yeah, that Devil's Hole it's a very deep underground. The water is like really deep. It's connected to groundwater system.
Yeah.
So that's an example of interconnectivity.
I just every time I talk to you, every time I visit one of the campuses, I learn something new, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but so many people look at a fire and they're like, well, why don't you just put water to make it all grow? But I learned that when the dirt is actually charred from the fire, it actually repels water, and so the water is just sliding downhill, causing actually additional damage in a different way.
Yep.
Because it's not seeping into the ground. And now every time I see it, our friends in the north are having wildfires right now that are affecting them, and I'm just looking at fire totally different. And I know these scientists that you work with spend their entire lives figuring out the who, what, where, when, and why, and I just feel so blessed that they're willing to share their knowledge, and it makes me smarter, and it makes me look at nature a little bit different.
I think you're spot on. I think that's very true. What we're trying to do is basically trying to make our communities better, safer, and then trying to find solutions to the problems that natural disasters create. And you just mentioned wildfire, right? Once wildfire burns, what happens is the surface of the top surface becomes hydrophobic, as you said, and the chances of debris flow and mudslides are exceedingly higher after the fire, right? And so we're trying to figure out like how long that hydrophobicity lasts and what can we do to make watersheds better. That's an example, right, of wildfire research. Yeah, there are so many other challenges associated with wildfire. The smoke inhalation by public health, right? Public health issues related to smoke. Not just firefighters, but even people living in downwind areas, and so, yeah, and then also once the fire starts, can you predict where that fire is going to move based on the wind conditions? All of that's happening at DRI, right now.
Yeah, I have a lot of firefighter friends that are part of travel crews that'll come in when there's wildfire, and this is what they talk about. They're like, we're not just looking at the fire itself, we're looking at all the conditions around.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's somebody sitting here and be like, well, obviously that's important, but it's like I wouldn't know where to begin. And so we're really glad that you guys work with firefighter departments to understand their process, what you're seeing, and then come up with a good solution.
Yeah, and so one of the centers at DRI is called Western Regional Climate Center. That center does a lot of work on dealing with wildfires. We have whether it's the fire forecast, developing a fire forecast model, I think that there's a lot that we're doing at DRI just to trying to help. And I know if you recall, a couple of years ago, we actually DRI Foundation organized a symposium, and we brought experts who are working on wildfires from around the country to come to Nevada to have a dialogue to see where are the bottlenecks, what can we do to make it better. Right.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to attend that conference, and it was fascinating. And I think it's always important to convene because people are going to bring their years of experience, and you're going to pick up something, and it might not hit you for a year down the road. And you're like, oh, I remember. And then you can pick up the phone and call that person. So
Agreed.
I'm glad you guys convene people in that.
Yeah, and we're actually already planning for the next one. And the next topic, it's going to be in spring of 2027. And the topic is going to be extreme heat.
Which we're all living. This summer is proof. No matter where you were in the globe, it was hot.
Well, you just want to remind your listeners that Nevada has two cities that are fastest warming cities in the country. Reno is the fastest warming city, number one, and Las Vegas is the second fastest warming city in the country.
Wow. Well, having spent time in both the cities this summer, I believe it.
Yeah, yeah.
We kind of just touched on this, but I am curious because DRI does so much work behind the scenes. We talked about a little bit about water and fire, wind and air quality. But where are people most likely to experience DRI's impact in their everyday lives?
So that's a great question. I think, obviously the drought, those of us who live in Southern Nevada, drought touches us, right? All the work that we do to make it better. That's definitely something that people probably don't realize that we do a lot of work. But recently, when I say recently, the last, I'd say 10 years, DRI also is having a significant impact on K through 12 education. We have two large programs. One is called STEM education program. The other one is called Nevada Robotics, right? And so people don't realize that DRI researchers working on those two programs, they reach 30 to 40,000 students. Each program reaches 30 to 40,000 students per year. So that means our folks are in almost every school in Nevada trying to help teachers, science teachers, how to teach science better. Because, listen, our science teachers have been teachers for a long time. The last 10 years, 15 years, it's changing rapidly with the AI revolution that's happening, in the robotics that's needed, But our teachers are not trained. That's where DRI comes in. And we actually go and train the science teachers how to teach science better. And we have a program at DRI. We recently received a federal grant to introduce AI in all schools in Nevada.
Amazing.
It's a $3 million grant from Department of Education. We'll be introducing artificial intelligence to kids. They need to be aware, because that tomorrow's workforce is going to be completely different from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're even selling DRI's impact a little short there, because of all of our institutions, you guys, I think, do the most in classroom for
Correct.
K through 12.
Yes.
The Green Suitcase program is literally one of my favorite things. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Sure. We call it a Green Box program. So it's a suitcase, as you said. It's a self-contained curriculum in a suitcase, right? Whether it's about, let's say, wildfire, we want to introduce a concept of wildfire to students, whether they are elementary school students, middle school students, or high school. We have different categories. And then we will provide all the materials needed to teach about wildfire. Each box provides enough materials for 4 to 6 weeks of classroom materials. And then the teachers will have enough, all the supplies they need, all the equipment they need, all the, we even provide the step-by-step instructions on how to introduce those topics, right? And so those kits are then shipped to schools free of charge to teachers that they can use with, whether if you need a microscope, you'll find microscope there, all the things, right? And it's absolutely free for educators that we actually provide. And there are, 150 different topics, and we're shipping green boxes all over the state now, and it's free for them. We even provide return shipping labels so that they can send back to DRI. Then we will replenish all the materials. We'll have it ready for the next group, right? So that program it's really popular, and obviously is having a major impact, and the teachers just love it. And I had the entire Choral Academy principals from Southern Nevada come to DRI to learn about green boxes.
So I had recently an opportunity to go into the warehouse of where you guys actually pack this up. It was just so magical to see.
Yeah.
I mean, because I just thought about all of the boxes you're going to send out
Yeah.
and what all these supplies meant. And I had an opportunity. So one of the things you guys do really well is all these science festivals. And I just had an opportunity to attend one for the community. And a couple teachers who had received some of your green boxes were there and just were willing to share because of how grateful they were, the impact that it had and what it meant for their science lessons. And it's just so cool to see that in person and hear it directly from teachers.
It's terrific. Yeah.
So obviously this is an important issue, but why is it important for DRI to invest in the next generation of science and problem solving?
So I think it's a great question again. The reason that I also mentioned briefly is because tomorrow, these kids who are in schools right now, for them to be ready for tomorrow's workforce, they have to learn something different, which is what's happening right now. They have to get into science and technology, robotics, AI. Without that, though, they won't be prepared for next, 5 years from now, even now, right? And so I feel like DRI is in a amazing position with all the science that's happening at DRI. I always say the STEM and robotics program is our way of translating that science into educational materials, right? And so we're in an amazing position to actually contribute to that, to generating that workforce for tomorrow, right? And so that's why I think that we're in a great position because we have so many different science happening at DRI, and we basically want to package that science into a green box and send it to school so that they can learn, whether it's how do you get involved in robotics education? You have to start really early.
Yeah.
I think that if you go past third grade, it's already too late to introduce these topics, the concepts. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and we're very lucky that we have a lot of technology at our fingertips, but being able to actually program something and not just click and point, it also is like a rewiring of the brain.
Yeah.
And it's that critical thinking component that, we're all, I think that's what makes people, whether you're going to be, you can jump careers or whatever it is, it's that critical thinking component.
I agree. You have to introduce that. Listen, when we grew up, we didn't learn that at our elementary school. We learned that much later, though, right? But at our times, we didn't need that. But now the time is different. Everything is AI. Everything is robotics.
Yeah.
Everything is self-driving, So I think that we have to start introducing and we have to change the way we teach science.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was just having a conversation about the arts and the arts have to change because they have to have that Instagrammable moment, but they still want you to learn about, and understand and have that emotional connection. It's the same with science, right? It can't just be beakers and looking at things because where that was maybe exciting when we were kids because we didn't have, all of this technology around us. Now they have technology everywhere. So now how do you translate that into, hey, this is something that you actually need to know because you're going to be able to build on this later.
Agreed. And then, we're obviously not trying to downplay arts. So we actually try to combine arts and AI, arts and robotics together, there is a program called Books and Bots, So those things are important, but I think that you can't prepare workforce for the next generation if you leave science and technology out.
I totally agree.
Yep.
I want to touch on a little bit more about the Nevada of it all. So DRI has a campus in Reno, a campus in Las Vegas. You have satellite campuses all over the state, and you also have partnerships all over the globe. But why was Nevada such the perfect place to conduct all this research?
I think that for the type of research that DRI does, which is whether it's about water, whether it's about air, or about, we also say air, water, and earth, I think Nevada is ideal because it has extreme climates. We have a vast land, extreme deserts, and then the very unique geology here. I think it's a perfect place for the type of research that we do at DRI, right? You're talking about drought, you're talking about extreme heat, right? Everything is happening here, and also I think that I feel like Nevada is small enough that we can collaborate with a lot of communities, other institutions. We have access to decision makers. So everything, I think, it just aligns really well for us to be here in Nevada.
Yeah, it's a small community with a vast
Yeah.
landscape
Yeah.
and so diverse. I mean, I think people get shocked to hear that we're like the most mountainous state
Yeah.
in the country because they're like, no, you're just a flat desert. It's like,
Mhm.
well, actually, we're in the valley of mountains. And if you ever fly between Reno and Vegas and open your window shade,
Yeah.
it's nothing but mountains along
Agreed.
the way.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite things to look at. I love our state. So you touched on this a little bit, but you began your career at DRI as a scientist, eventually becoming its president. What has that journey taught you about leadership?
I think about that a lot. For me, when I was a scientist, it was all about trying to find a solution, how to help people. For now, it's the same way. How to find solutions, how to help people. So what has taught me is that if you don't worry about your self-importance or your getting credit for doing something, you can accomplish a lot. So when you make it about other people, then you can do great things, right? And that's the lesson that I have learned. When I was an individual scientist, I was trying to, I have lived in a very unique parts of this world trying to help people and community. And so for me, I think that it's all about helping. So I think I think trying to make an impact here, I think it's easier when you have tremendous people around you that you can actually help them to do better and bigger things.
I mean, you really do have such an incredible team all around you. I mean, every community-facing event is always spot on. It's always very thoughtful. I've met these scientists. They really enjoy your leadership. They tell me they're excited about what they do. And I think the fact that you celebrate it and because you've come from that world, I have to imagine that that's a shared experience that you guys have. And
yeah, it's easy for me because I used to be one of them before, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What first drew you to water science? And when did it kind of no longer become just a research topic for you?
So I think you'll find this interesting because I was born in Nepal.
Okay.
Nepal is one of the poorest and most mountainous countries in the world. And then I have seen and I've heard and I've watched people, especially women in remote parts of Nepal, having to walk a mile, 2 miles to bring in one bucket of water.
Wow.
There's no drinking water supply in remote parts. And so I've seen this, I feel like, okay, the water. And so it's always been with me that, okay, what can I do better to help our communities, whether it's in Nepal or in China or Indonesia. So it's always been very dear to me trying to find solutions. I'll give you another example. When I was a faculty, I spent weeks living in a very small island in Java in Indonesia, trying to build rainwater harvesting system to poor villages where people actually have to sell cattle in summertime to buy drinking water. So the water is, I think sometimes I feel like we're entitled here, because everything is that you go to bathroom or a kitchen, you open up your tap, the water comes, and people don't realize that not everybody has that around the world.
That's right.
And so that I was always interested in trying to do something to help people so that they can get clean drinking water,
Yeah, I mean, those are really interesting examples because when you think about it, we all have our Stanley cups walking around with, 48 ounces of water on us at all times. But in a lot of parts of the world, that would feed an entire family for the day.
Yeah.
And to your point, you're walking miles to get it. And then is it clean? The desalinization, all of the things that, you have these global nonprofits working on. And yet, we're pretty blessed here.
Yeah, and it's a big problem. I mean, it's a global problem, Yeah.
I mean, even in a community, and you talked about this, Nevada is one of the driest places on earth. We're also kind of the fastest growing. Do you think those two realities can actually, continue in concert with each other?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, obviously you do ponder, right, sometimes. But I think that that ship has sailed. Nevada is such a big, it's a the cities are so big, and so much economy is embedded here, and so I believe that it's possible for us to coexist. Uh, I'll give you an example, right? I mean, look at the Middle East. They also don't have water. Dubai doesn't have water. They create water. They desalinate water, right? So eventually, if we ran out of water, we're going to have to invest in infrastructures to do something like that. Listen, I mean, this country or the whole world is investing trillions of dollars in building, data centers. How about investing a few billion dollars to build infrastructures to provide clean drinking water?
Yeah.
Right? So I think that we will be able to coexist, but we just have to invest.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is a good time to talk about Water Start.
Yeah.
This was a program that spun out of DRI. And it's because of the work at Water Start that we are able as a community to reclaim over 96% of household water usage.
Yeah, I mean, I was part of Water Start back in the day when it was founded, and we went around the world looking for technologies, water-related technologies, to bring to Nevada to solve problems. So Water Start was founded at, say, 2011, 12. So they've been working on it for almost 14, 15 years. They work very closely with Southern Nevada Water Authority and Truckee Metro Water Authority, Metropolitan Water Districts in LA. You're right. I think they've been tremendous in trying to find technologies here.
Yeah, and it's my understanding that at the time when this spun out, you guys basically did a call to any water technology companies and was like, "We'll give you, we are a global test bed for you.
Yep.
What do you want to do? We have opportunity. We need solutions." At the time, our Colorado River allotment had been established 100 years prior and hasn't changed. Just recently, we're actually finding out we're going to receive less.
28% less in the next 2 years.
Yeah, which I think this is what you're talking about right now is like, now is the time where we need to actually invest in fixing this. As it is, as a community, we already saved 96%, but that's clearly not going to be enough.
Yeah, we need to, I think one thing that we all need to realize is that water is a commodity. We cannot waste it. It's very precious, and we all have our responsibilities to conserve and use it judiciously. Yeah.
I guess with the recent news and the fact that water is just abundant in access, not in supply chain, but in access, what do you wish Nevadans understood about our water supply?
It takes money, it takes infrastructure to provide clean drinking water to people. Just because there's water in the ocean or water in lakes and rivers, I mean, individuals can't go to lakes and rivers and bring their own water, right? So we have to invest, right? We have to invest in infrastructures, right? That's the only way that we can have water. Am I concerned about living in Las Vegas because of water? I'm not. I think the worst that will happen is we're going to have to pay a little bit more. But I think we're going to figure it out. There are a lot of people working on it. I think our Las Vegas Valley Water District, they do a pretty good job. They're very well known around the world in their water conservation practices, and I have full trust in them to provide drinking water for a long time.
Yeah, I've had some really interesting conversations and meetings with that team, and they have some incredible people working on this, and they speak on conferences all the time. To your point, they're globally recognized.
And they collaborate with other similar utilities around the world.
So we know water is going to be a major issue for Southern Nevada in the coming years, but over the next 20 years, what else do you think will be on the radar for Nevadans?
Wildfires. It's going to be a major problem here. Entire Western United States. Look at Europe. I mean, Europe's the same way, right? Wildfire is a big topic. I also believe that emerging contaminants such as PFAS, microplastics are going to be a major challenge. I'm going to touch on this, though. I think we also will have challenges on energy sector. The energy demand with the new data centers that are being built around the country, the pressure is tremendous, huge for these energy utilities to produce more energy faster. And it can't be on the back of ratepayers, right? So they have to figure out a way to do it. So there's a lot of demand already for energy. So water, energy, wildfires, contaminants, they're going to be major problem for next 20 years.
I think it goes back to your infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's putting money in infrastructure to build out the utility of it all, the water quality, the energy. I spoke with the team over at Nevada Power and NV Energy, excuse me, and they had mentioned that the requests were like 6x of the current
Production. Yeah.
production.
Yeah.
6x.
That's only from the data centers that have been approved already.
Oh, yeah. Well, and obviously,
And there'll be new ones will be coming in, right?
it's just physics doesn't allow us to
We
do
have
that
to
kind
figure
of.
out. Yeah, we have to figure out. And I think energy is going to be a major challenge. So not 20 years, next 5 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, what other projects maybe that aren't specific to Nevada? Because we have talked about air quality, fire, water, emerging technologies. But I'm curious. DRI does so many things, and I'm kind of thinking about the ice cores. Let's talk about some other fascinating things that happen around the
Yeah,
globe.
I mean, who would believe, right? Nevada, DRI has arguably the most sophisticated ice core lab in the country, right? And so, what do the ice core scientists do? They go to Greenland, they go to Antarctica, they go to all those places, and they bring ice cores. Those ice cores have thousands and thousands of years of atmospheric history embedded in them. And they bring them to Nevada, to our lab in Reno, and then they they look at it by millimeter, they melt those ice, and they look at all the atmospheric depositions. So what that tells is like what historical events that happened like maybe 100 years, 1,000 years ago that actually influenced change in the climate, right? Whether it's the massive volcano in Alaska, or it's the lead smelting that began, or the use of gasolines in cars, right? So all of those events actually had a significant impact on our air quality. And so I think our scientists are then able to, really look at the 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 years of climate history, and then they're able to say, okay, this is what caused this spike in, the carbon emission or all of that, right? And so, yeah, the Ice Core Lab, the work they do is just globally known. I mean, famous. I mean, the papers they produce, the results that come out are like, it's a New York Times or Newsweek or all those big national media immediately, because then we're able to then hopefully learn from those and then maybe make it better for our next generation.
I actually had the opportunity to see some ice cores that were over 10,000 years old.
Yep.
I did ask to touch them. They did tell me no, which is fair. But I had to ask. And it was so fascinating when they were explaining what you were just saying, that like almost snapshots in time based off of the line in the ice. And so for people who don't understand what we're talking about, how I would describe it is they take a cylinder and they project it into an
So
iceberg.
they melt it on a warm plate. And so when the water melts, the water then goes to different machines to analyze chemical signatures.
That's the actual core itself. But I mean, to get it,
Oh, yeah.
what they're taking is like a cylinder tube almost, and projecting it into the iceberg, and then pulling it up. And then what you're having is like, 20 feet long.
200 feet.
200 feet. I only saw 20 feet. 200 feet of ice in a cylinder, and then then what the president was just saying is then to actually analyze it, they're heating it one layer at a time, and that's how they can actually. And it's just to be able to see it is just so wonderful.
It's this incredible program that DRI has.
Yeah, I really just.
Yeah.
I was so blessed to be able to see it, and I'm so grateful that.
I'm glad that you were able to see it.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. So, if you had unlimited funds, which I know is hard to imagine, but let's pretend we have unlimited funds. What is one issue that you think DRI would tackle that would change Nevada's trajectory?
Or the world's trajectory, I'll say.
The world's
that.
trajectory.
The reason I say that is I think one of the major issues that that keeps me awake at night sometimes is the carbon emission. If we can come up with a technology to capture that carbon and slow down this climate change a little bit, that would be incredible for our future generations. Whether you believe in climate change or not does not matter because it's happening. There are extreme weathers happening. The sea level is rising, and so we're losing all those ice, and so if we are not able to slow down climate change, I think there's going to be a massive challenges around. So if I had one magic wand to change that, I would figure out a way to capture that carbon.
All right, well, let's reach out to Mr. Gore. Let's make that happen. So we know science doesn't happen in a vacuum, and research often influences public policy and economic development and really just how people communicate about and prepare for the future. How does DRI help decision makers without it being political?
Yeah, DRI takes pride in being a non-biased scientific institute, research institute, where we actually provide unbiased data. The data are the facts, right? And so we don't make policies, but we provide that data to policymakers. Say, hey, this is the data, and this is what this data means, and you figure out if you want to use it to make policies. So we actually provide data for policymakers so that they can use to make effective policies. So that's the I think that's a significant contribution from our side. We don't tell them, whether you should be against it, for it. It doesn't matter. If, we have climate monitoring stations. We monitor climate data, or we collect climate data for 11 Western United States. So all that data is available at DRI. We say, okay, this is the data. This is what the data we think tells the story. But if you're welcome to use data and make your policy. So I think that's how we contribute. That's how we don't get involved into policies at all. We don't have policy related work, but just providing pure, unbiased scientific facts.
And I think we're in a time where so much trust is being eroded for established institutions that the fact you guys are just focusing on, hey, this is the tests we ran, this is the results we came out of, this is what this means, and just focusing on facts.
Yeah, and then communicating
has to maintain trust.
Right, and communicating that in a easier to understand language to public.
Yeah, it is. I know I had just mentioned Mr. Gore. That's actually why he created Climate Reality, is because he knew all these scientists were doing important things, but they had a hard time translating it into everyday speak and to actually get it into, just normal conversations. And so that's actually how this whole organization came about. And so I think it's important that, research gets done, things are studied, but then we are able to translate it into so elected officials can understand it. Not that they don't understand what you're talking about, but they're learning so many things that they have to be able to understand the cause and effect without doing a whole deep dive into a white paper.
Agreed.
So, so I think Nevada is often described as a living laboratory for drought, extreme heat, wildfire, rapid urban growth. Could solving Nevada's challenges position our state as a global leader in environmental, solution-based?
Definitely. It's already happening in a lot of different ways. I'll give you one example. So DRI has a program that we developed with Google, working with Google, NASA, Environmental Defense Fund, and a bunch of other agencies. It's called Open ET, Open Evapotranspiration Monitoring. So what we do is we use satellite data to understand how much water is being evaporated or transpired from our fields, to understand which field is taking more water. So that program has gone national now. So we're actually able to provide that Open ET service to the entire country that started from Nevada, right? So everything that we do at DRI, a lot of it, is easily transferable to many, not only in the rest of the country, but also internationally, globally. That's why people actually take notice of what we do at DRI.
Yeah. How many scientists are at DRI?
So we have more than 600 employees at DRI. I would say the principal investigators, the scientists who actually are leading different projects, are about 200. And out of 200, 150 of them are PhDs.
And I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that DRI is mostly self-funded.
It's pretty much, our scientists are all self-funded. We do get state support for our administration and facilities and maintenance to maintain our facilities. But our scientists are all funded by grants and contracts. So they are not non-tenured researchers. They bring their own funding. It's tough, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I think, not only are they, hungry and they're going after grants and they're really
They have to be cutting edge.
and cutting edge, but they also have to be really passionate about it. Yeah. And how lucky we are that all these very passionate people have chose DRI to house their research.
Yeah, I know that you're in tech transfer and all those are startup business, but we call our researchers, they are all entrepreneurs. They bring their own, they generate their own business. They bring their own funding. They pursue their own passion, and we allow that, and we facilitate that,
And we want that. We want the commercialization of research because, WaterStart is a good example. I know that there's been some wind technology that has really changed even just how we conduct business here in Las Vegas. And it's because of scientists at DRI that, our lives are actually being changed by the work being done, even if people don't know about it.
Agreed.
And I want people to commercialize. I want them to make money from that.
Yeah.
Because not only is it making the 2.4 million people who live here and the 3.2 million in the state and the 360 million in the country and the 7 billion in the world, it's making everyone's lives better. That person deserves, because they went out and hustled. They got their money. They did the research. They built the team. They, went out and commercialized it. I want them to make the money because it just shows that that's like the full circle of, and we all get to benefit from it.
Agreed, 100%.
We are the free riders in the free rider problem.
I mean, we're all contributing. You as a reason is contributing, helping us, Yeah.
And I know I'm not in the lab with them, but like.
No, you help us, I mean, you help us in a lot of different ways, Yeah, by getting the message out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny, when I became a region, I had known about it because of like the Atomic Museum, and I saw DRI's name, and I know you guys have that beautiful campus on the hill, and I had seen it before, but I didn't really understand it. I didn't really understand that you have 600 employees that are dedicated to just making sure that we have all of this research being done, and it's being done right here in Nevada. It's bringing a good, positive global attention to our state and all the global partnerships that we make. Like, we talk about Nevada being a state that doesn't get a lot of grant funding percentage-wise for other states, but DRI is changing that.
I think we compete with the best in the country.
Yeah.
And we do pretty well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love when, I know you get so excited when your team scores another grant, and that is exciting. It's exciting for the research that they're going to do, but it's exciting for NSHE. It's exciting for, because I think one thing that we haven't really talked about is like, even though you guys you're not student facing per se, you guys actually hire a lot of our grad students to come in and do the research for you.
At any time, DRI will have anywhere from 40 to 50 graduate students working at DRI. They either come from UNLV, UNR, or Nevada State University. We support them. We support their we give them graduate assistantships. And so they work alongside our scientists. And we also have undergraduate internship programs where we invite students from community colleges to spend 6 weeks in summer. 16 weeks in summer, So we fund them to come, and so we want to provide that exposure to science, Yeah, we do work with students, but we just don't grant degrees.
Which, I'm so grateful that you guys actually give a real life, tangible, work experience for these people who are continuing their education, getting a graduate degree, and now they actually get to practice in their field that they're studying. Yeah. And I think that's invaluable.
I agree.
Plus, it keeps them here in Nevada.
It keeps them here in Nevada. It keeps them interested, or at least introduces them to STEM education, science. They may not have thought about science, and then when they spend some time in the lab, and there's been several instances where they say, okay, I really like it, so I want to pursue science, So I think changing a few of them, I think it goes a long way, I think,
Yeah, look, I think we talk a lot about just in general through NG, it's like this taxpayer subsidized education. It's these opportunities, these world changing opportunities. And DRI is very much part of that dialogue, very much. So this podcast is called Home Means. And after helping shape Nevada's, important research that you're doing, what does home mean to you?
Home means to me, I was thinking about it while I was driving here. I often obviously travel around, and I go to a foreign country and come back, and I land at Harry Airport, and I get in my car, and when I'm driving home, that priceless feeling of being home is just so unique. To me, home means safe communities, safe and diverse communities where everybody is respected. I feel comfortable getting out there and talking to people, where I feel comfortable sending my kids to school, local public schools. That's what home means to me. And then I've lived here for 21 years, and then it just grown on me, and I just love living in Nevada. And this is my home. This is where I'm going to retire and live the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think that's a really special experience to be able to fly home and feel that.
Yeah.
And
you feel like you're home, the sense of belonging,
Yeah. I'll have to tell you, when I was a kid, it was getting off the plane and hearing the slot machines.
Mm.
And there was something about that sound that really just triggered, I could breathe again. I was home.
Similar, right? I mean, when I get in my car and when I'm driving home, I just feel like, okay, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a special community, so I'm glad that you feel that way.
I do.
We are very lucky to not only have you here as a scientist, but as the president of a very important institution for our state. And thank you so much for just being part of this ecosystem and making us all better.
Thank you for allowing me to lead this institution. It's an incredible honor to lead DRI and to make a small impact, in our communities and help the state and the country,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. This was lovely. Enjoyed it very much.
Hope you have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening and being a part of the Home Means community. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, and check out our Nevada-inspired merch at homemeanspodcast.com. We'll be back soon with another story about the people who make Nevada feel like home. In the meantime, thank you for being part of the Home Means community.